like, subscribe, give a thumbs up. Hal, what do you think of Tim Ballard? I think real quick, he's the guy that the movie that Jim Caviezel just made that's out is about. He seems to be a good guy. He just stepped away from the company, though, the organization that he started, that the movie is based on. He just left right before the movie came out. I find that odd. He just quietly quit right before the movie came out. Why would you do that? I don't think it's because he's bad. So what stinks is maybe the other side of it. Now, Caviezel seems to be in some cases a mix of a well-meaning lunatic QAnon fringer and a brooding white supremacist. And that seems to be what grinds him all the time. He's like, I'll show you what I mean in a second. As a matter of fact, on the side note, before we get to this guy, let me show you something real quick. I'm going to show you a couple things. I have to go to my history of my stuff. And yeah, here you go. And this guy. Very strange. Okay, yeah. So here's.
It comes from this stamp.
Hold on. So this is Caviezel talking about Sounds of Freedom. So he's now. Let me start out by saying, because I'm sure this is controversial, that not only would it take every fiber of my being if I ever stumbled upon someone engaging in any of the behaviors that this person alleges happens everywhere in Hollywood, it would take every fiber of my being not to beat that person to death with a cinder block. I believe everybody deserves a fair trial and the like, unless I catch them doing something even close to what they're talking about here, red-handed. In which case, I just know there's just no fucking way. There's no way that person leaves the room. Like beating, sexually assaulting a kid, draining their blood, all that kind of stuff. All the stuff that this guy alleges is just like party favors in Hollywood somehow. If I was at a place where that was even alleged in a room upstairs, I'd kick the fucking door in and start chucking people out windows. The reality is that I got news for you. The vast majority of Hollywood is fucking boring. It's work like any other. People get up every day, try to be on set on time, memorize their lines, put props together, get the fucking lighting right and the lens right. And it's a grind. It's great and it's artistically satisfying, but it's not a fucking mystery. Any more than like Wolf of Wall Street is full of like American psychos, or that every deacon of every church is BTK. Like it's fucked up. Anyways, having known people and been in Hollywood for decades and stuff, and granted, this allegedly is something that happens at the quote-unquote A-list level. Now, I have had my run-ins with a couple of A-listers in my life, but most of my stuff is pretty blue-collar. I'm a blue-collar actor. I've been mostly in TV and largely cable the entirety of my career. And I'm not downplaying the quality of what I do, believe me. I bring in Oscar-level performances no matter what the fuck I'm doing. I don't waste anybody's time. But I recognize that it ain't that kind of film, right? And what I find curious about it is two things. Yeah, the blood libel aspect of this and the kind of this is what Jews do part of it is the underlying current of this conversation that this asshole seems to have everywhere. But the other part is maybe it's you. Maybe they look at you and your work and your character and your attitude and how you treat people and go, oh, this guy might be a serial killer like me. Yeah. So, because I haven't seen it. I haven't been around, and having been on a Disney set for a long time, where these assholes think that there's like a machine there. The only thing I ever heard about that was a point of concern was that there had been a child star on one of the other shows that their parents were pretty loosey-goosey with, their behavior because they were the star of a show, and they let them drink and they became an alcoholic because of it, because that's what fucking happens, and they were underage and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of I'm sure that happens anyways. It happens in those fucking stupid beauty pageants. It happens at, cheerleading squads where they're like, you need a little upper or something, so here, sniff this. That shit happens everywhere. The idea that that isolated incidents of fucked up parental or personal shit happening in Hollywood is indicative of the entire thing is like fucking weird. Yeah, like Drew Barrymore, I think she talks about that kind of stuff. Yes, I have a SAG card. Yes, I'm in SAG. I've been a union member in SAG since I was 17 years old. And I gotta say, like, my experience as a teenager working in Hollywood around a bunch of those people, I remember I auditioned for License to Drive, the Corey Haim Feldman movie, and all that kind of stuff. So I was like for a couple weeks around everybody, and I had a couple of them in an acting class I took temporarily, like those kind of folks, and it was just like, just fucking normal. Just everybody's just too busy striving, and I also remember. And I've told you guys this story before. If you're new, I'm sorry to repeat myself. If you're not, but when the movie Fame came out and they had that scene with Coco where she goes on the audition and she goes up in this guy's room and he asks her to undress and she starts crying as she's taking her days off. And I remember seeing that movie and going, "Get the fuck out of there! What's wrong with you? You don't need that job. That's not a job. That guy's fucking. You don't have to do that. What the shit?" Get out of there. Now, like the allegory of the casting couch or the existence of the casting couch has been notorious and legendary for fucking ever. And it absolutely exists. And Harvey Weinstein is a fucking pig. That said, that's not how most people get work. And I distinctly, I think I told you guys, there was a casting person in Chicago when I was a teenager. And I was in Second City. And he would cast out of the Second City teenage troupe and that kind of... those kind of like school programs and shit like that. And his office was at his apartment, which is, by the way, this is where I set a rule that I will not have a manager if they work out of their home. I've only broken that once, and that was with a female manager that I worked with for a while. You gotta have a fucking office. I'm not going to your house. This is a business, goddammit. I don't care how arty it is or how big your house is. I'm not going to your fucking house. Get an office. So, this guy, this is when I was 15 though, and I'm just starting out in this, and I go to an audition, and he's auditioning like 4 of the guys at Second City with me. Like we're all 15, 16. I think there was one of the kids might have been 17, and we go up to, it's in an apartment building that looks like an office building. I think it was off Rush Street, not far from Second City. And so we all went there together. So it was all right. We're in a group. It's fine. But we go in there, and we're each going in kind of one at a time and doing the audition. And I go in, and I sit down, and I'm waiting or whatever. And he comes in, and it's like it's a converted den, whatever, office. And he gets up from his desk, like, he goes, "Oh, it's hot here," something like that. Like some stupid fucking reach. And he goes out of the room, and he comes back in with just a shirt, and he's got no pants on. His pants are gone. And I went, "Bye," and fucked off. I was 15 years old. I'm like, I'm not fucking, nope. No, that's not how this works. Fuck you. You're not Coco and me, you dumb son of a bitch. I learned the lesson of the movie Fame that they were trying to teach me. Eat shit. Bye. And I never auditioned for anything else that came across from that dude ever, and nor would I. He's dead now. And I know I missed work. I know there, like, a bunch of kids from my school were in Poltergeist 2. They shot it in Chicago, but that kind of, and I was like, I think he was one of the people who was doing the auditions for locals. Local kid actors who might be in the movie for like, scenes at the school and shit like that. And it came up. It was like, okay, you're gonna read over here. I was like, nope, not going. Thanks. Next. I'm interested in a career, not being some dude's fuck toy for a bit part. Eat shit. No bye. That's Caviezel, by the way. Somebody was asking. Seriously. And I warned everybody I knew. I was like, don't fucking audition for that guy. There's 5 legit casting people in this fucking town. Don't. Pass. Just say you're sick. Wait till they find somebody else. Or tell them no. Or have your parents go, we worry about this casting person. We'll meet with them. We'll audition at your production office, but we're not going to his apartment. That's all. Anyways, that was the only time that happened to me, over the course of it. And believe me, there were a couple of times that were like near misses, where it was obvious that one of the men at a dinner party I was invited to as a young actor, blah, 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 was interested in me. But it wasn't like, you could get this job, kid, if you wear this, put on this zipper hood, strap this. Yeah. I'll have a friend who's an agent out by you if you're still, I am still looking, Spicy Dragon. So reach out. As long as they have an office and they keep their pants on, I'm okay. But, even in those moments, now I have to admit, this is maybe TMI, but I missed passes by women I was attracted to when I was that age. So it's not surprising that some of the come-ons that might have been coming my way from other folks, from, older men or men in the business or whatever, might have gone over my head and I just missed it. That's entirely possible. However, there were a couple of them where I was like, all right, dude. Okay. All right. Fuck off. No. So, anyways, yes, an Arnold interest full. That helps. So, I was aware that, some of that came up, but it wasn't because, oh my God, there's an underground of fucking lizard people who are going to drink my blood and they do all this other stuff and that, whatever. Like whether it's the Catholic Church or the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts or what have you, pedophiles and people like that will gravitate towards area where they have access. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for the weak spots in it, right? They're looking for a window into, the wolf wants a way into where the herd is. That doesn't mean all the sheepdogs around are wolves too. As a matter of fact, they're helping run off the wolves a lot of the time. So I take issue with this idea that the reason this asshole thinks he's not more successful is because the A-list is full of, blood-drinking pedophiles, but for them, he'd be a huge star. And people are coming up to me all the time offering to take me to parties where they're going to drink the blood of children. Maybe it's your fucking face, dude. Maybe, did it ever occur to you that, maybe just, cannibals and fuck monsters just see you and go, he looks like one of us? Because they sure as shit don't think that of me or any of my friends. And the other part, yes, he's really saying this shit. The other part is, and he'll talk about some of this at the beginning. The other part is the illusion. Well, let me show you what he says here first, and then we'll, because we'll get too far into it. This is him talking about Sound of Freedom, where he plays this guy who started this organization to save kids from child trafficking. And by the way, good on that guy. And anybody he catches, I commend him for not fucking beating their head in with a cement block. I don't know how he could not.
To talk about Sound of Freedom. And we know that both of you are very frequently depicted in movies that affect change. They're not just entertainment. Can you tell us, Jim, what do you want this movie, how do you want it to affect our culture?
Our culture.
All right. Let's start with my own children. My wife and I adopted 3 children from China and became very well aware of the dangers that children go through globally, even through the orphanage program.
What do you mean? The danger of being placed with lunatics? All right, I'm kidding. Again, the fact that this guy has 3 adopted children from China, kudos. Nobody out. I'm guessing most of them are girls because they don't adopt out the boys. We'll start there.
Next step is this man called me up, said, do you want to do something that really can light things up?
That can really light things up.
Now I'm going to go back to the Passion of the Christ. I saw what that did to this world globally. And it was a very difficult film. And obviously, we took a lot of flack putting that thing out. But it did a great amount of good. And it went against the media's narrative. This one is also part of that.
Well, okay. Passion of the Christ, the big controversy around that was that the group of the Zachary Jews that were like, believed Jesus was a fraud and claiming to be the Messiah, and like many other people who had claimed to be Messiah before, called for his death. And some of them regretted it later. And they just take out the part of the regret. Basically, the Jews are hand rubbing about his death. All right, that's the whole thing. And meanwhile, he looks like Jim Caviezel. He doesn't look like Osama bin Laden, or a little closer to what he would actually look like.
Because it's going against what's going down at the border.
It's going against what's going down at the border. This is a movie about child sex trafficking, and he thinks that's primarily what's going on at the border. Not people coming across the border trying to get a fucking job, not women and children fleeing that kind of shit. But according to this dickhead, that the border is wide open so they can bring in edible kids.
I've said this over and over again. If you don't have a border, a south border, you don't have a country.
Yeah, we don't need the northern border because Canadians, what do we fucking worry about that? And they fall down, unless they got a hockey stick in their hand. Complete wussies. But if you don't have a southern border, you don't have a country. Look at this motherfucker. I mean, it's basically copying lines from Trump, but being slightly more racist. That's amazing.
By the rules, sovereign country, you have to have borders. We don't have a southern border.
We don't have a southern border. Southern border. Yes, we do.
It points a big light on grooming.
It points a big light on grooming, he says. So, again, most of this guy's stuff, if I'm not mistaken, takes place in South America, Brazil, and whatnot. At least that's where his organization was set up to chase all this shit down. But what does he go to? What does he kick in the door on a drag queen story hour and punch somebody in the teeth?
A lot of that going on in the United States right now.
No, there isn't.
Laws that are just abortion, killing a baby 27 days after they're born.
No. That's not abortion. Aborting a child 27 days after it's born is infanticide. It's a homicide. It's a murder. Nobody does that. What the fuck are you talking about? 27 days after it's born. Never happened. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Nonsense. And the idea that it's even on a zeitgeist level in this country, or that it's a cultural fucking thing. Fuck you. I will go out on a limb and say it sounds like this fucker is trying to normalize that shit, because it ain't normal.
All of this is a war on our children.
Is that what you're doing? You're engaged in a war on our children? You're trying to make people like feel nervous around them, and oh my God, if I show affection to my kid or whatever, then people are going to think I'm grooming them, or that if they see anything that, they're going to take the kid away from me and put him in a machine and then drain the skull juice out of him and drink it in a Bill Gates martini.
And the public ain't happening.
The public ain't happening, man. The public, they're crazy, man. They're grooving. They're not grooving like they used to. The public ain't happening. Good Lord.
We have to slab it.
Don't want this happening any longer.
But it ain't happening. They don't want this happening any longer. The public don't want this happening any longer.
And so all of that, when we came to Washington, many of them asked me, well, what can I do for you? Once we were done talking, I said, we want to help you. We want to give you a weapon. And this is what it is. And
also, people are like, people saw the movie. Like, how can we contribute to this organization so we can stop child sex trafficking? And he's like, we want you to show our movie everywhere. He's fucking promoting it. Don't think for a second, we want to give you a weapon. The organization already fucking exists. These people were like, I would like to make a donation so that I can help stop child sex trafficking. And he's like, no. We'd rather you take our movie and just show it in your churches and other places, or buy tickets for your friends. Because one of the things is that this organization and people who are associated with it have been buying the theaters out, and there's empty rows. They're just buying the tickets to drive up the thing. Is like, it's a messaging campaign because it's cheaper to buy the seats in a bunch of theaters than it is to buy ads.
So now we have guys like Elon Musk that are coming in and helping us out. Ivanka Trump just tweeted the other day, and this is growing. It's a big, big movement, and it really is fighting for the survival of our country, our republic, especially for our children.
Okay, look, there is no takeover of our government by child-eating pedophile cabalists. The old dude in the White House trying to get getting infrastructure passed and trying to keep unemployment down and dealing with Ukraine and all that kind of shit. This is not like our society is starting to accept the murder and sexual assault of children, and therefore we've got to turn this around. What the fuck are you talking about? And as a matter of fact, the only person that's been anywhere near the White House who has openly talked about sexualizing children is Donald fucking Trump. If she wasn't my daughter, I'd be dating her right now. I hope when she's born, she gets what Marla's got. That's the only president we've had where I think the last time we've had, even Clinton's affair was with a goddamn adult. And it wasn't even like she was, like, he picked some lollipop model-looking girl. She's straight up Americana.
That God's children are no longer for sale.
They never were. What the fuck are you talking about? God's children are no longer for sale. Thanks for drawing that line, dickhead. Seriously, like, this is a serious issue. When this happens, it's fucking awful. And here again, I personally believe that, like I said, I'm not for the death penalty, not because some people don't deserve it, but because if you're ever mistaken, you can't reverse it. That's all. That's the only reason. I'm like, yes, that person should be killed. They are fucking awful. However, what if we're wrong about anybody? Right? But, and again, if you have a system set up where you kill people by the state, then there's a chance you could be wrong at some point. And I'm not willing to have somebody killed so that we can kill one innocent person so we can kill 10 people who deserve it. It's not worth it. Lock them up, throw away the key. I give a fuck. But when you're talking about capital crimes, what qualifies is like, sexual assault of children is equal to murder in my estimation. It's as bad. You are destroying a life. Yes, serial killers. Yes, because the system you have to have in place to prosecute the serial killer and give them the death penalty is also the same system you would have in place that could make a mistake. Again, fuck Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy deserved to die. The problem was if the choice is somebody comes to you, go, hey, we found who killed your relative, and we can put them to death. But there's a chance, because nobody's perfect, that if we get it wrong, we kill another innocent person. Your child, your relative is innocent, and this person turns out to be too. We can't, undo it. And because we have this, I'm very angry. Am I? I'm aggravated. I'm just disgusted, really. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's my point, is that the system itself can't be perfect, and therefore better to err on the side of safety, let these people rot in jail. So, and that's why I don't want the death penalty. It's not because they don't deserve it, but because I don't want anybody who didn't deserve it to accidentally get it. Period. That's it. But again, I'm not against it because I think, killing someone is wrong in the abstract in that situation. It's not, no, not at all. And I equate, in my own moral view, child sex crimes with murder and other violent assault that ends in death. I think it's the same thing. You attack a child that young, you kill their life on so many fronts. So fuck them. Fuck that person. They deserve, if you're talking about whether it's a capital crime, it is. I just think put them in jail forever. Ever. Again, if you're wrong, you let them out later. But on that's on 1-to-1. Again, this is not about the legal system. This is the whole cinder block thing is me walking into a room when it's happening. That's different. Stumbling on a situation and being a part of the exchange where it occurs and discovering someone doing something that awful, that's different than I wasn't there, I didn't see, but there's a trial. You understand? Innocent until proven guilty. That's the thing. All right. Now, am I weird because I'm for chemical castration? No, I mean, it's a logical middle position. The problem is you only chemically castrate someone because you're going to let them out into society. I don't think that applies to child predators. I don't think they should be out in society. Even if you chemically castrated them, I don't think that's... No. So anyways, point I'm trying to make is the idea that this guy plays so loosely with something that is so fucking serious and awful, and it's just like harumphing his way through it. Well, this is what America's like now. Shut the fuck up.
And not every project is successful when it takes this, when it comes from this standpoint that you're coming from, that God has a say in what's going on and that matters. Why?
I'm sorry. God wanted these children attacked? Is that the point of the film? Fuck it. I'm not going. I was maybe going to see it, but no, you're weird. So, needless to say, that turns into another Caviezel thing anyways, but he just kind of, they talk to the other guy and then they go back and forth about it. Now, let me show you this other one. This is an old video. It's an old interview with Mel Gibson, and I don't know why the person puts it in this television set on a countertop except to just make it weird. But this is supposedly an interview chunk of Mel Gibson, which is, insofar as I know, it's like right after he worked with Caviezel on this and was starting to get ostracized, and it's before he was, pulled over drunk and blamed the Jews for all the wars in the world. I don't know who he's talking about in this, and it's interesting that they cut this off.
I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
Spanish.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
Maybe they couldn't understand it either. Maybe they couldn't understand the question you were asking.
They don't.
They don't. Thank you, fill-in person.
And and I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be.
Yes, so the idea is that the opinions that he formed was that it was a city full of genuine vampires, demons, if you will, living, and I don't mean air quotes demons, I mean actual demons. He continues.
Because a whole place can't be like, Weird Town, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them. And
well, we used to have a place like that, but hashtag rip Portland.
They tell you don't go to the house on the hill, and it's like that.
No, it isn't. The house on the hill was the Playboy Mansion. It was a wonderful place. I went there several times.
And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking.
Yes. Yeah, it is. You are.
I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff.
You did. Okay. And this is just from his telling. It picks up midway, so it's always hard to put this shit together. But imagine what stuff. Your fantasy about the whole town being weird, and you imagined that there was some sort of cabal operating shit.
Couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like, could it? And then you find out later on the track that you are exactly on track with a lot of this stuff. Not specifically on track.
Well, yeah, not specifically, obviously. It's more of like a generalized creeped out by Jews thing. But then you find out Harvey Weinstein's a complete fucking scumbag, and you're like, I was kind of right about the Jews a little bit. Is that where you're going?
But that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real.
Yeah, I've had some pretty bad nightmares in my life. This is the worst you can come up with. It's pretty baseline, pretty human.
At the time, and you think, no, he came to see me on a rooftop in New York.
Okay, I don't know who he's talking about. Maybe there's it's in the description. Is it? I'm talking about. Yeah, it just says Mel Gibson talks about some of his dark experiences with Hollywood in 1998. Exposes Hollywood in 1998. That's all it says. All right. Who he is? I'm just gonna go with Kevin Spacey, or Harvey Weinstein, or Jim Caviezel. Let's just say it's Jim Caviezel.
I said, hey, can I talk to you? And he said, sure.
Yeah.
And he
said, hey, Jim Caviezel, can I talk to you? And he said, sure.
He floated in sideways.
Hi, Mel. He floated in sideways. That sounds like it would chafe.
Can I talk to you? And he said, sure. And he floated in sideways through a crowd of people. He was wearing black, and it was...
Well, I mean, you can't. Obviously, if you're wearing a big Liberace jacket, you can't float. That thing clinks.
like one of those old vampire movies where they don't walk, but they glide. And he was a dancer, you know, so he has he's very, you know, graceful.
Yeah.
And he moved sideways, and he just sat down in a chair next to me. And it kind of frightened me.
Yes, dancing frightens me. Whenever someone dances and I'm not expecting it, it's a panic. All right. Fucking hell.
And he's a very smart guy. And we
As demons are, they know everything.
started talking, and I didn't, you know, say much of anything about reading the script, nothing. I just started talking about the Middle Ages.
As you do.
And he began to talk tortures.
Sure. You know, because somebody comes by with little cocktail weenies, and this reminds me of stuff that they did during the Spanish Inquisition. Right.
And we swapped tortures, because I
Yeah.
read this book on torture. And
Oh, so he had read your script.
I tried to recall some of the most heinous things I'd ever read in this book. And
So you're trying to outboner each other. I get it. Okay.
and he was like, oh, and he'd try and top it. And it got, and my assistant was there, and he left because he couldn't stand it anymore.
Yeah.
They,
What do you mean, yeah? Why does the guy say, guy, you weren't there? We the fucking guy in the background. What? Why does Mel Gibson have a hype man during rando interviews?
air had turned cold. And then
Well, yeah, and sulfury, and obviously. So it was Rudy Giuliani, was it?
he left, and I wanted to leave. And because I knew that I didn't want to work with him.
Yeah.
And he was getting scary.
Yeah.
And there's a producer I know, successful producer. I will not mention names, but his whole opinion about women on film, from beginning to end, is very brief. He says, women on film, either naked or dead. Both is better. And it's like, whoa, ooh.
So I didn't know Jim Caviezel produced. That's fascinating. Also, I'm going back over. Well, I'm gonna go with Richard Donner. Is that what he's saying about Richard Donner? Because in Lethal Weapon, that's what happens. That's the opening shot. A half-naked girl dives out a window, crashes on the top of a car, and she's naked, dead on top of the car. That's the opening of the movie. It's the movie that made this guy famous. It's the movie he read the script of and went, I will do that. Also, his other debut movie had the rape and murder of his wife and child in it as the impetus for his character to take off. You know, another rom-com. And movies I liked, by the way. Also, I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but in Lethal Weapon, there is a line in that movie that is not in the script that he says, that he insisted on saying, that is prescient. And it's the idea that Amanda Hunsaker, the girl who dies in the beginning of the film, that she would have been dead. Somebody put drain cleaner in her drugs. She would have been dead even if she hadn't jumped off the roof. It was murder. And they're looking for who she was in bed with before she died. They were assuming it's a guy. And then at one point, Riggs, I think maybe it wasn't a man, maybe it was a girl, another girl. And he says, Riggs, his character, says, okay, disgusting, but okay. And I remember I think a movie came out when I was, it was like 16, 17, something like that. And I was like, why would obviously two women together is at least rudimentarily sexually attractive from a visual standpoint, or the idea. So why would that be why would you say that? Hey, Hannah. If you run into Victor, our bass player from Nerd Halen, say hi. He's Swedish. But you know what I mean? That was thin, really fucking thin, right? That line was odd to me. I loved Braveheart as a movie, man. I'm disappointed he's turned into kind of a dick or whatever. And I think he's, deluded and has got his own issues and shit like that. It was just traditional Catholic coming out. Absolutely. But he had to put it in there. He wouldn't say, they probably had something in this script like, I like where your head is at or something. And he refused to say it. There you go.
Man,
all Swedes chill together. No, they don't, but it's not a big place.
The spiritual malady for a start. I mean, the scary thing is that I think a lot of people think that.
Yeah, no, we don't. No, a lot of people don't think that. Maybe the kind of guys that made the kind of movies that you've done most of your life think that. But do the rest of the producers you've worked with on every other project think that? And by the way, if that was a prevailing thought, why would you only have one guy to quote that says it? Good Lord. So anyways, we got a little bit sidetracked on there, but I think it's worthwhile